Hello everybody and welcome to the Whiskey Dictionary. Today we're going to be filming one of my favorite kind of videos. This is a review of a heavily peated cask strength whiskey. All of those words are amazing, and so is this. This is the Laphroaig Cairdeas 2021 Pedro Ximenez at cask strength. So, many of you guys are going to be familiar with Laphroaig 10. This guy right here. Maybe you've seen it at a bar, maybe you've tried it at a bar, maybe it turned you off of whiskey for a little bit, or maybe it made you fall in love with peated whiskeys. All of those are just great, except for the falling out of love with whiskey. But if you're here, then that means that you like it again, so it's fine. Either way, let's talk about this. Now, Cairdeas is the yearly release that Laphroaig does, and they typically put it out around November or December of every year, and 2021 was no different. So I ended up finding this actually on the shelf. It's funny, just quick little story. So I was at Wegmans, which is a grocery store near me, but they usually have very good prices on alcohol. And this one was behind locked glass, so I had to ask for it, and I said, hey, can I get the Laphroaig Cairdeas? He's like, you mean the Cairdeas? I said, yeah, the Cairdeas. Cairdeas. Well, actually, it's pronounced Cairdeas. Yeah, it's Cairdeas. Okay, sure. Can I get the PX Sherry Cask Cairdeas, please? So, hurt my soul a little bit. But, some people can't be educated. It is what it is. But let's talk about that for a minute. So, Cairdeas. Cairdeas is a Gaelic term meaning friendship. And that's the whole idea behind Laphroaig here. They have this thing. It's their Laphroaig, Friends of Laphroaig, and it's their online membership situation. You don't have to sign, you don't have to pay anything, but you do have to sign up. And if you do, whenever you get a bottle, you get one of these little pamphlets here, and it's got a code in it. And so if you do happen to have one of these, and if you don't want it, by all means send it to me because the points matter, just a little bit. But if you want to, go on their website, sign up for it, and get this thing out of here.
Get this thing out of here.
That was a pretty good throw. So go on their website, sign up for the thing, and you can actually get some exclusive sweepstakes, or you could get a little ahead notice or ability to buy things ahead of time. So if it's the thing you want, then it makes some sense, but it's called the Friends of Laphroaig. And so that's why they have the Cairdeas friendship. All right. So John Campbell is the director of distillation at Laphroaig. He ended up wanting to do this thing every year where he wanted to make something new. And you see this all over the place, especially with older distilleries. All of them are getting into this whole idea of we don't have to put an age statement on it. Let's just make it taste however we want. And in a lot of cases, at least in my opinion, this is a good idea because we get all these fun expressions or people playing around with things. In Scotch, it can work out pretty well, but they are a little bit more limited. Where I really like this is actually with American whiskeys, but I digress. I don't want to get too much into that. Either way, when we're talking about this is the yearly release. So they do something different every year. Last year, it was I think it was port and wine, and people didn't love it. They didn't hate it, but they didn't love it. But the previous year, they actually did this thing called triple wood. And it's actually very similar to this. We'll get into that in a moment, but let's just go into some of the quick metrics about this bottle so you can know a little bit more about it. So this was released in 2021. It's 117.8 proof, 58.9% ABV. It's a no-age statement whiskey, but it was matured in ex-bourbon barrels and finished in Pedro Ximenez or PX Sherry casks. 100% malted barley, non-chill filtered, natural color, and its MSRP is about $90. Just like the 2019 version of the Cairdeas, the triple wood was aged in ex-bourbon and then quarter casks and then Oloroso sherry. This is kind of the same idea, except instead of Oloroso, we went with the Pedro Ximenez or PX sherry casks. Now, this is important because although they're both sherry, just like anything else, you wouldn't take two red wines and call them the same thing, right? So in the case of sherry, there's basically 8 different types of sherry. And 2 of them tend to be used for whiskey. You've got Oloroso, which is on the drier side, and then you have Pedro Ximenez, or PX Sherry, which is on the sweeter side. So it makes sense that they're going to go with this, especially when people really liked that triple wood. It makes so much sense that they bothered to do this. So I'm kind of happy that they did because everybody liked the triple wood, and now I've got this in my possession. So let's go ahead and give this a taste. And a nose, of course, because you have to tease yourself a bit. So... all right, look at that color. Oh my goodness. Look at that. I like to use my head because it's just, very white. Spend a lot of time in my basement these days. This smells incredible, by the way, even from like a foot and a half away. It's just plums and raisins kind of finding its way over to me. Now, it's not as smoky as something like the Laphroaig 10 would be when you open it up. So that's very interesting. Let's see what we get on the nose. super interesting. At 58.9% ABV, there is virtually no alcohol burn here. And that's crazy to me. Like, there's nothing. And it's all fruit. It's, let's get this out of the way. It's still a Laphroaig. There's still smoke there. But on this one, it's very much an undercurrent of the nose. We'll see what it does on the taste, but both the nose and the taste are going to have smoke. So when we're talking about the actual things that we're getting here, other than smoke, we're getting plums for sure. Kind of like candy, very crystallized kind of raisins, like a very sweet raisin. I'm trying to think of like what you would even have that would be sweeter than a raisin, but I'm going to put them, I guess, separate. So you've got raisins and then kind of just crystallized sugar. It's very sweet, almost like that sugar you get on top of a muffin, the finishing sugars. Very good. There's an ashiness that's underlying all of this, which is very pleasant. It's kind of strange because I don't smoke. I very rarely smoke cigars, but I do love the smell, especially here. And it's not as medicinal as Laphroaig tends to be. There's cinnamon. It's like a cinnamon stick, actually, or maybe even cinnamon red hots. But doesn't burn. It just is very cinnamon, like almost like a fireball candy. That kind of came out of nowhere, though. I haven't gotten that before, even with my initial notes on this, the fireball candy thing. Definitely there. All right. So plums, raisins, sweet, cinnamon, malty. It's got kind of maybe like a very mild cocoa nose going on there. This is a very complex nose. It makes sense. It's got 3 different stages here. So they did a pretty good job with the nose. All right, let's go ahead and give this a taste because boy, am I excited to taste this. Cheers. Okay. So first off, there's the alcohol. It is strong, and that's fine. I mean, it's cask strength. It says right on it, and it should be strong. And this is exactly what you're getting into, and you could always water it down. I tend not to so much. I usually do during my initial tastings, and if there's something dramatically different than what I taste, I'll point that out in these reviews. It doesn't happen a ton. This is like making my mouth water, though. This is so good. I'm going to absolutely have another sip of this in a sec here. But let's let this sit for a minute. On my palate, as it's drying, it's smoke, of course. It's interesting, though. There's this fig kind of taste, almost like a fig Newton without the bread. Fig, right? But it's that crystallized kind of sugary fig that's on the inside. Very good. Then we've got kind of like some toffee, maybe. That one's a tough one. I think toffee. I'm going to say toffee, but it's only right at the very end. Let's have another taste. We're definitely getting a little bit more of the Laphroaig character here. So there's a menthol kind of flavor here, whereas I feel like the normal Laphroaig 10 has a medicinal quality to it. I've often compared it to like Band-Aids. This doesn't do that. It's more like a menthol. So, okay. What else? There's definitely more going on here. Okay, there we go. So, strawberries. What? Yeah, menthol, smoke, chocolate, and strawberries, of course, whatever. Figs. It's all over the place. This one's just crazy. I'm really enjoying this. I think this is a whiskey lover's whiskey. A whiskey evaluator's whiskey. This is one that you could pick apart and have a lot of fun doing so. It never really gets very sweet on the flavor, whereas the nose was. This never really gets super sweet, which is interesting because that's kind of the definition of a PX cask, right? It's going to impart some sweetness, but more so, it's actually going to impart kind of these darker notes of like figs and plums. Again, I'm not tasting the plums, but obviously definitely smelled them. Anyway, all right, so let's talk about this. This, first off, it's January 2022. This is still in stores for sure. I've got several bottles near me right now. I'm sure if you look hard enough, you could find one. The MSRP here is $90. And you guys kind of know my opinion about recommending things that are up that high, because I'm aware that, a lot of you people watch and find my videos through like Evan Williams, like you're not buying $100 whiskeys, but this one might be one that you want to consider. I personally am so excited that I bought this. I can't tell you how many of these limited release whiskeys I've bought over the last few years of just every different distillery and been so disappointed. And this one, to be this good, is making me very happy that I picked it up. I pulled the trigger, and this is just thankfully one that was good out the gate. I didn't have to get used to it. I didn't have to learn to appreciate it. This is one that I'm going to enjoy drinking this whole bottle. Probably not in one night. And I'm going to probably find new things as I go. And if I think about it, I'll add them to the description of this video. But either way, if you decide to go out and buy this one, I'm going to give this one a buy it for sure. But if you decide to go out and buy this one, I guarantee you that if you like peated whiskeys and if you like sherry, this one's going to do it for you in a whole different way than you're used to. It's going to make you think. And I think that's so much fun. All right. Well, thank you everybody very much for joining me here on the Whiskey Dictionary. I hope you have a great rest of your night, and cheers.